Hello, my loves. So, Fredward and I are laying in bed. I'm reading him some dead time stories. Don't make this weird. It's weird. It's totally weird. I know. But I'm weird. And you love me, so. Anyways, it is Scary Story Sunday night, and I've been so fucking excited to read you guys some scary stories because I gotta get my daily dose of terror. This one is called, it's actually a mixture because you know how I like to mix it up. 12 super scary ghost stories that'll send shivers down your spine. Right, Fredbird? Holy shit, he's already scared to death. To death. I'm just being stupid. Alright, there's nothing better than cozying up around the campfire and listening to spooky tales about the supernatural. I would have to agree with you, Sugar. That is a great way to start the evening. While they totally terrify us, we can't help but be fascinated by the mystery of the unknown. That probably explains why we're obsessed with vampires, witches, and other scary movie staples. Although we don't necessarily want them to be real, we worry that they might be. Of course we're real. Frederick, tell them we're real. We're real. Derek Hayes, host and creator of Monsters Among Us, a podcast where guests share their unearthly experiences, told Today that he's unsure if ghosts actually exist or not. But he's heard plenty of ghost stories that speak for themselves. As he puts it, places and people have energy, and it's unclear where that energy actually goes when they're gone. Einstein, who is one of the smartest motherfuckers on the planet, has always said that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be changed. Hayes said, the human body is made up of all sorts of different energy, and somehow that energy lives on. And on and on and on. It goes on forever. Where does it go? We may never know the answer, or at the very least, once we figure it out, it'll be too late to tell anyone because we'll be expired. Like Fredward over here. Pay you. In the meantime, we've gathered a bunch of scary stories as told by real people who've experienced something supernatural that they simply can't explain. The imaginary friend, as told on Monsters Among Us. Okay, first story. Jacqueline from Oklahoma says that while her memories have faded some over the years, she remembers having an imaginary friend of her own when she was young. As many did. Her grandparents, Granny Junie and Pa Hank, lived in a small home with a quiet backyard. Jacqueline recalls visiting them as a child and making daisy chains out of dandelions while sitting beneath a big tree. I have very good memories of my Pa Hank, Jacqueline said on the podcast. He would sit under the tree with me and tell me stories. The stories were often about his life and memories of prohibition. He was actually a very interesting character. She said, I have some cool stories that I'm grateful that I got to have and that she remembers. The only problem, her grandfather died in 1981 and Jacqueline was born in 1982. Where the hell did she hear these stories? I don't think I ever realized that I was getting stories from a ghost, she said, adding that the rest of the family was aware of his presence in the house. My Granny Junie would never stay in the house on the anniversary of his death. She said he did die in the house. Jacqueline also recalls hearing Pa Hank get up in the middle of the night when she was staying at their house. It never occurred to me that these were memories of an entity, she said. In hindsight, Jacqueline says that even through her childhood, imaginary friend was actually her dead grandfather. It cast a different light because it was a relative and not a stranger. It never felt like ghosts. It always felt like I was talking to my Pa Hank. I got a little bit of goosebumps just because I do believe in that sort of thing. Something similar has happened to me. So I believe. I think those that obviously it has happened to, we believe because it fucking happened. It was real. We're real. We're real. In 1998, Joe relocated from California to Georgia to work as a manager at an auto body shop with his cousin. Soon after, Joe's brother followed him to the Peach State and rented a small house built in the late 1800s. It looked nice from the outside. It did not feel good, though, from the inside, Joe said on the podcast. Things were off from the moment he helped his brother move into that house. I walked into that house and went, oh man. The hair stood up on the back of my neck and I just felt ill at ease, like this place is not cool at all, he said. Moments later, while carrying items into the bedroom, Joe says he heard whispering. Whispering, Fredward. Whisper. A heated whispering, almost an argument between two people that seemed to be hovering in the top of the ceiling area of the room, he added. That's where they like to hover, in the corners and the ceilings. Oh. Joe ran out of the room and asked his brother if he'd felt something off about the house too. His brother had picked up on the vibe, but after praying on it, his brother said he felt that things would be all right. As long as you're good, Joe said. I'm not good, but I'm going to help you, but I'm going home and I probably won't come back here because this place freaks the shit out of me. He didn't say that, but I bet he was thinking that. In the weeks that followed, there were more unusual occurrences, including a terrifying event in which Joe's 8-year-old nephew was taking a bath and sat up to find an elderly man in the fucking tub with him. Okay. It took about 2 days to calm him down, and he never took baths after that, Joe said. That is so sad. He was scared shitless, literally. After falling asleep on the couch one night, Joe's brother awoke to find an elderly man and woman seated on either side of him, arguing back and forth over whether or not they were going to allow the brother and his family to remain in the home. The kicker, however, was when Joe's brother asked to borrow his truck one afternoon after receiving word that his 4-year-old daughter had been found wandering along a busy road by herself with her hand up in the air, just raised up in the air like this. Police and other agencies were called in to investigate, and when asked, the 4-year-old explained she'd just gone for a stroll with the old lady. Goosebumps. What old lady? Joe's brother asked. The old lady that lives here, his daughter replied. She just wanted to go for a walk, so we went for a walk. The front door was far too heavy for a 4-year-old, so everyone was perplexed how she was able to leave the house. The old lady opened the door, then she petted the dog for a little bit, and then we went for a walk, she explained. So she was genuine and honest at 4 years old, that he couldn't call her liar, Joe said. Shortly after his brother moved out of the house and never went back, Joe still drives by the house nearly every day. It looks like a perfectly normal, acceptable house, except for what's inside. Frederick, yo, Grandma and Grandpa are haunting that place. I kind of want to go hang out with them. Just a little bit. That'd be kind of cool. I wouldn't want to hear the bickering back and forth, but I mean, it would still be pretty freaking cool. Alright, this is one of my favorites. The Ghost of the Stanley Hotel. Hell yeah. It opened in 1909. The Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, was originally a posh getaway for guests seeking solitude in the mountains. As the years passed, however, occupancy declined, and by the 1970s, the Grand Hotel had fallen into disrepair. It was around that time that famed author Stephen King spent the night there in the now famous room 217 and was inspired to write The Shining, one of his most well-known novels and one of the best freaking horror movies of all times. Don't you argue with me. Put a spell on you. Just kidding. Or am I? You won't know. The book and subsequent blockbuster film, that is my French accent trying to come out. The blockbuster film helped return the Stanley to its former glory, and now guests come in droves to see the hotel that inspired one of the scariest horror movies of all time. Given its spooky history, it should come as no surprise that many visitors report strange happenings. Aware of the ghostly rumors, Texas resident Henry Yaw booked a last-minute getaway in April of 2016 to check it out. After arriving, Yaw had dinner, then wandered around the Stanley to take photos. Stopping at the staircase, he waited for people to clear the area, then he took a picture thinking nothing of it. Later that night, however, Yal fell seriously ill. I felt really sick. I had the shivers. I was like, something is really wrong, he told Today. His companion suggested he go to the emergency room, but Yal refused. On the trip home, Yal began swiping through the photos he'd taken when he discovered what he said was a really, really strange image of someone standing on the stairs. Except no one had been there the day that he took the goddamn picture, so there was nobody there, okay? The next day, he posted the photo on Instagram, half joking that he'd captured a ghost and the world took notice. Almost overnight, Yao found himself in the limelight with his ghost picture warranting attention from global media outlets and paranormal experts who wanted to examine the photo. Some experts say that there's two ghosts, and other people said that the reason he got sick is because the ghost was trying to materialize, taking energy out of me. He said, there's so many theories about this. And what does Yao think? He has no idea, he said with a laugh. Well, I'm glad he can laugh at something so fucking spooky. Very cool, though. Let me see here. There is a picture. I'll try to show it to you. Can you kind of see that? See that ghost standing at the top of the stairs? That's actually a famous picture. Alrighty then. Next story is The Hauntings at the Lizzie Borden House. This is one of my favorite stories of all times. Okay. On August 4th, 1892, Andrew and wife Abby Borden were found murdered in their Fall River, Massachusetts home. Though murder wasn't uncommon in the late 1800s, the fact that they were bludgeoned to death with an axe and the main suspect was their 32-year-old daughter, Lizzie Borden, certainly was. The crime and trial that followed made headlines around the world. Lizzie was ultimately acquitted of murder, but she remains forever linked to the heinous killings, as does the home where they were committed. Now, a bed and breakfast, the Borden home attracts history buffs and thrill seekers drawn to the scene of the crime out of morbid curiosity and to see for themselves if the house lives up to its reputation of being haunted. I think I should pack my shit right now and we should go to this bed and breakfast because it would be amazing. Fredward can come with. In fact, he'll have to drive. I'm not able to drive. When I started working here, it was more of the history. I really didn't care about the paranormal. Suzanne St. John, Century 21 realtor and tour guide at the historic Lizzie Borden house, told Today. That changed after St. John experienced a few unusual happenings of her own. Guests tell us they hear laughing and playing in the middle of the night. Things get moved around, she said, explaining that she once found toys scattered around the room that no one had been in. There was also a picture that fell over and slid 2 feet across the floor without any plausible explanation. We're always looking for explanations. We want the science. We want the facts. Well, sometimes there just fucking isn't any, and you need to believe that this shit really exists, okay? Okay. God. St. John said that on the eve of the anniversary of Andrew and Abby's murder, she and the 2 other tour guides felt sudden, sharp, piercing pains in their left eye. The left eye. The same exact location of Andrew Borden's fatal injuries. Now that's fucked up. Perhaps the most unnerving, however, is a story St. John tells of a tour guide at the Lizzie Borden house who asked her group to silence their cell phones before starting the tour. Moments later, a guest's cell phone rang. She looked up and said, "It's my mom." The tour guide asked if she wanted to leave and take the call, to which the woman replied, "She died 2 years ago." It was so goosebumps. Her mama was calling from the grave. Okay. All right. Swallow it down. Okay, the next story is The Grandmas in the Cemetery as Told on Monsters Among Us. Jeff, a resident of Dayton, Ohio, was driving with his 3-year-old son, Miles, in the back seat when they passed by a cemetery. It was a modest cemetery with only flowers and small plaques. It basically looks like a giant garden, he told Hayes on Monsters Among Us. As they passed by, Miles, who'd been happily singing, abruptly stopped, pointed to the cemetery, and exclaimed, "Look at all those people!" Jeff turned to look, but didn't see a single person there. He was confused. He asked Miles what he was talking about. "All those people over there," his son said. "There sure are a lot of grandmas." According to Jeff, chills ran down his spine, and he asked his son what all the people were doing. "They're all standing there, looking down at the grass," his son said. Completely unsettled by the conversation, he sped up and drove home. Later that same day, Miles was watching his favorite cartoon on TV when he looked at Jeff and said, "You know, they weren't alive." Thinking Miles meant the cartoon, Jeff asked what Miles meant. "Those people we saw, they were all paused." I don't know if my kid has the sixth sense or if he just has a wild imagination. That's what Jeff said on the podcast, but holy shit, is it scary. I'd have to agree with you there. Next story, the ghost of Stone's public house. And then there's this dude in the photo. I love those old-time photos. They're great to look at. Some of them are creepy as hell. You know? Know what I mean? Yeah. Fredward, you get it? Oh, he's scared. You like these stories, don't you, buddy? Yeah, he does. Okay. Named one of the most haunted restaurants in the U.S., Stone's Public House in Ashland, Massachusetts, doesn't have a ghost problem. It has a ghosts problem. Okay. Janet Morozani has been a resident of Ashland most of her life and now works as a bartender and manager at the inn, which was built by John Stone in 1832. As a bartender and manager at the inn, which was built by John Stone in 1832, I've already said that line, I'm sorry, I need fucking new glasses or contacts or some shit. Even before she started working at Stone's public house, she had heard stories about a little boy that had died of influenza who now roamed the halls. "It makes sense," Morozani told Today, since it had been used to house the sick during the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. That's where they would quarantine all the sick people, she said. Apparently quite a few souls have passed just due to that. Unfortunately, the inn is also the site for other untimely deaths, including that of Mary, a young girl whose mother worked at Stone's. Legend has it that she was tragically struck by a train and killed while playing near the railroad tracks that bordered the property. According to Morozani, a father and young son went outside to watch the trains go by while attending a private event at the restaurant. When they came back inside, she overheard the father reassuring his son that there wasn't anyone else outside. Despite the fact that the son's claims he'd seen a little girl sitting beside them, he's like, "She was sitting right next to me. She was crying. You didn't see the little girl?" And the dad said, "There was nobody there. It was just me and you, buddy," Morozani recalls. Other ghosts are said to haunt the old inn, including that of John Stone himself, who, Morozani said, didn't die there, but it is believed he is watching over the place. Of course, because he built it with his own hands, his own blood, sweat, and tears. One night, when Morozani was closing the inn by herself, she heard footsteps walking directly above her on the second floor. "I was just like, there is no explanation for that whatsoever. I'm leaving," she told Today. That's not all. According to Morozani, lights turn on and off by themselves, doors open and close, and handprints appear mysteriously on windows. Still, she doesn't believe that the spirits have bad intentions. "I've never had that scary hair on the back of your neck, gotta get out of the building feeling here," she said. Well, that's wonderful. See, those are the places I'd like to go to, where you know there's spirits all around you, but you also know that you're not going to get fucked up or hurt or scared shitless. That's where I want to go. Alright. Okay, so I'm not able to read all 12 stories to you because they get a bit long, plus I'm kind of a rambler. I like to talk. So, but I am going to read a couple bit more. Um, this is called The Ghost of Captain Joseph White. Okay. So, witches aside, there have been plenty of other chilling stories throughout Salem's 400-year history. One of them is the tale of Captain Joseph White, a wealthy merchant who was found bludgeoned to death in his bed. It was a crime motivated by money, according to Giovanni Albiso. I butchered that. I know I did. I'm so sorry. Owner and tour guide at Salem Historical Tours, the 82-year-old was allegedly targeted by greedy brothers hoping to get their hands on his will. How shitty. Brothers Joseph and Francis Knapp enlisted the help of Richard Crowninshield to help get the job done. Late in the evening, when Captain White is asleep, Dick Crowninshield comes in. He goes upstairs to the second floor and takes a club and bashes the captain over the head and crushes his goddamn skull. Like, like that. Oh, Frederick doesn't like that, though. Alabasso told Today, the murder resulted in a scandalous trial and is said to be the inspiration for Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, which is like one of my favorite Edgar Allan Poe stories, as well as the game Clue, which is fucking awesome. I love that game so much. So much. Such a good game. Whether it's the brutal nature of the crime or revenge for the attempt to steal his money, the spirit of Captain Joseph White is said to still wander the halls of his former home. People believe Captain White is roaming around that house protecting whatever treasure he reportedly has, Alabasso said. Tourists take photos of the house, and despite being empty, many pictures reveal shadowy figures in the windows and on the landing of the Gardiner Pingree house. It's definitely, absolutely active, he said. Goosebumps again. Active. All right. The Ghost Nanny. Ooh. Kip, a caller from Western New York State, told Hayes on Monsters Among Us the story of his wife who purchased a beautiful old home while they were dating. After buying the home, his wife invited her sister and newborn baby to come for a visit. They stayed in the downstairs bedroom, and my wife was sleeping in the upstairs bedroom, Kip explained. She said the first night that they came, she could hear her sister saying something out loud in the middle of the night while she was sleeping. The next morning, Kip's wife asked who she'd been talking to, and the sister replied, I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was an old lady standing over my baby, and I had to tell her to get away. But that was just the beginning. Lamps mysteriously moved, and once in a while, outside working in the garden, Kip's wife heard the smoke alarm go off in the house. She immediately runs back into the house, figures out that it's the smoke alarm in that same downstairs bedroom that keeps going off. Kip said on the podcast, when she opened the door, she said for a split second, all she could see in the room was a white fog. Ooh. Was it smoke or was it fog? Within moments, however, the white fog disappeared and the alarm shut off. Alrighty then. Convinced her house was haunted, Kip's wife reached out to a neighbor to learn more about the property. She learned that the previous owner had been a 90-year-old woman who tragically died. Oh, she tragically died in the house in a house fire. That makes sense. The neighbor ran over to help and discovered the garage was on fire. Once in the house, they found her walker at the top of the stairs, but not the woman. It was determined that the woman was in the garage when she died. So why didn't this 90-year-old woman get up in the middle of the night, abandon her walk? Okay, why did this 90-year-old woman get up in the middle of the night, abandon her walker that she needs to get around, go down a flight of stairs? Kip asked. Beyond that, no one could understand how she could have opened a heavy door and made her way to the car without her walker. Plus, what would have caused a fire in her car? Okay, so it wasn't in the house, it was in her vehicle. The more we thought about the story, it makes more sense that she didn't do this, somebody else did, he said on the podcast. The truth remains a mystery, one Kip and his wife didn't stick around to solve. Needless to say, we fixed up the house and got out of there as fast as we could, and we moved someplace else. I don't know what I would do. If I was in that situation, I might have tried to stay, to maybe figure it out, but I also know that I would have been scared shitless and probably like, yeah, fuck this, I'm leaving. So, I don't know. It would have went both ways for me. I'm both fascinated and terrified in the same breath, and I like it. So, we didn't get through all 12 of the stories because they're super long, but I read a handful of them. I think there was like 6 or 7 in there. I hope you liked them. Some of them are super spooky, like super. So, I really like paranormal type stuff. One night when I was sleeping, this was like 6 years ago. I was sleeping I was just about to fall asleep. You know, where you're in that state where you're dozing off, but you're still kind of like conscious, like you kind of know what's going on around you. Anyways, I was about to zone out completely, and I felt a tug on my shoulder. My boyfriend at the time was sleeping next to me, and so I rolled over and asked him what he wanted because I thought he was just like, shaking me to be like, hey, and to tell me something. Well, he was sleeping, and I yelled at him, and I said his name, and I kind of yelled at him like, what do you want, and he's just like, leave me alone, I'm sleeping, blah blah blah, and we were kind of bickering back and forth, whatever. And I was like, okay, obviously that wasn't him, that was weird. And then I thought, oh, I probably just jerked in my sleep, and that's what it was. I roll back over, and I'm laying there, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever goes by. I start to doze off again, and I feel this, like, hand through my hair, and I'm thinking, like, what the fuck, is there a spider or what? And I thought it was my boyfriend, like, just rubbing his hand through my hair. So I turn around again, and he's sleeping. Who's touching me? I don't know, it wasn't me. So super creepy. I heard this was the same night. This was like, I probably had been sleeping for an hour or two already, and I had heard a noise, like a creak in the floor, which you kind of hear that type of shit all the time. Houses settle and make a bunch of weird noises and stuff. So I didn't think much of it, but it did wake me up enough to the point where I was just kind of paying attention. And I heard Amber. I heard a whisper. So I turned around really slowly because I was just like, I'm already creeped out for the night because this shit's been happening. This is the 3rd thing now in the same night that's happened. Rolled over thinking it was just my boyfriend trying to scare me, because I think he knew that I was like freaked out. He was sleeping. He was snoring. He was sleeping. He was like fully asleep. So I don't know who whispered my name, who touched my hair, who touched my shoulder. I don't know. I didn't feel like it was a bad presence. I think, in my head and my heart, I think maybe it was like a family member that has passed on that was just comforting me, maybe. I let them know at that moment, you scared the shit out of me. Maybe try a different approach next time, not when I'm trying to go to sleep, for fuck's sakes. God. I mean, I love the visits, but not when I'm trying to go to sleep. Anyway, that's one of my little stories with the paranormal, and yeah, I still get goosebumps when I think about it. It was just so real and so much. Yeah. So, I don't know. If you have any paranormal stories, share them with me. I love them. I want to hear them. Okay. Well, Fredward, you got anything to say to these people? Sometimes I think I should color him. I should, like, I don't know, give him some tattoos or some shit so we can match. We should be all tatted up. That'd be cool. I might do that. Anywho, yeah. It's Sunday night. It's the start of a new week. 2 days, and I turned 40 years old. I'm happy. Excited. Also, like, holy fuck, where did my life go? I don't know. I'm kind of wondering if I'm going to have, like, a crisis or not. I've had enough crises in my life. I'm hoping that my 40s will just be amazing because I fucking deserve it. Anyways, beginning of a new week, Sunday night. I wish you all the best week. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe, stay thirsty, my friends, or whatever the hell that guy says. you know what to do. I'll see you at some point this week when I do my scary story quickies. I'll also see you on Tuesday for my birthday. I'm sure I'll be posting something. Yeah, so keep watch. I love you all. Sweet dreams. Good night.